Hey, hey, it's Yehudit Steinberg here for another day of Jewish Fusion Wedding Talk Show. And here we go. Well, this is day 2. And the title of today is What is a Jewish Fusion Wedding? And I'm going to share a couple of tips with you today on different ways that you can plan your ceremony according to some of the different particulars that you might have. So welcome to the Jewish Fusion Wedding Talk Show, where we are going live every weekday in June to share wedding planning tips for planning your wedding when you have diverse backgrounds and you want to incorporate them into your wedding without offending grandma. So today I'm going to identify four different ceremony ideas to integrate with diverse backgrounds and heritage into your wedding, and why it's important to research and discuss your ceremony options in the pre-planning stages. Now, you don't have to be Jewish, however. I'm going to give some Jewish fusion examples that you can incorporate no matter what different traditions that you might be putting together. Now, I want to talk about what is a fusion wedding. A fusion wedding is one that blends two distinct cultures or religions from each of the marrying partners. And sometimes this fusion is completed within one ceremony or event, and other times it's carried out through separate ceremonies or events, all occurring under a wedding. So what I'd like to do before I get too far into this is, if you are listening, I want to make sure that you can hear me. And if you would just type in the comments, hey, the sound is good, that'll make me feel good. But I'm going to continue on. And hopefully sound levels are good and that you are seeing me. So the next thing that I want to mention, in case you don't know who I am, my name is Yehudit Steinberg, and I am I'm the founder of Jewish Interfaith Wedding Network, a resource, an online resource for Jewish interfaith couples, for their families, affiliate organizations, and wedding professionals. I'm also the producer and host of Think Grow Love Media, which is a digital production studio located in Las Cruces, New Mexico, formerly from the San Francisco Bay Area, where I offer courses and I offer workshops and live video training to online, to folks that are online, and also locally here in our rural communities and urban communities. Over the past 18 plus years, I have designed and produced over 300 globally inspired weddings, with an emphasis on blending Jewish faith and traditions with other religions without offending or excluding anyone who participates, making them feel comfortable while exceeding all expectations with the end results. And this has been a wonderful time for us. My husband is a rabbi, and for a lot of the weddings that I worked on, he did officiate. I have also worked with weddings from cultures and traditions and religions where they're not Jewish as well. So what I want to get into now is the difference in planning fusion weddings when you come from different backgrounds. And one of the big issues that that I have found over the years is that it's really important in the beginning, in the pre-planning phase of your engagement, to talk about the ceremony and how you, not just the ceremony, but how you want to incorporate your religious differences, your family traditions, and your heritage into the wedding itself. And so it's really important to talk about the ceremony at the beginning of the planning. You know, you have two families coming together with different expectations about how weddings have been in the past. And this tends to bring in the dynamics from the start. And it's really best to get it out on the table from the beginning. You want you may want your future in-laws to accept you. And if that is the case, while you also want to maintain your vision and what is important to you in your wedding, and how do you do this? And so it tends to be a sticky point, and it's for some it's best to deal with it later. However, that can be costly. It can also be frustrating and add more stress to the planning itself. And so it's really best to get it out in the very beginning. So once you know what you want, so the first step is to really decide what it is that you want. To take some time yourself. Maybe you're going to take, a vacay day by yourself, go to the spa, wherever you kind of relax, and get some ideas of what's really top priority for you and what you would like to see. And then, and also encourage your partner to do the same thing. Then you come together and have a conversation, and you get your priorities in order. Once you know what you want and your top priorities, then you want to factor in your family's wants and desires. It's really good to get it out in the open. It may be, for some of you, it may be an easy conversation. However, for others, it may be a little bit difficult. So it's really good to get it out in the open and see what their expectations are. Now, so I'm going to talk about some different options that you have, because how many of you really planned a wedding before? So it's probably your first time and you have no idea, and you may feel overwhelmed. And I know when I get overwhelmed, I get stuck. So we've got you covered here, and I've helped many, many couples get through this in a really successful way. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to show you some of the ceremony options that you have and talk a little bit about that right now. So let me pull up, here we go. Okay, in this situation is the one ceremony, we can look at this and say one ceremony, one religion. And that is pretty self-explanatory, but I found that most of the couples that we've worked with over the past 18 years, it's not necessarily what the option that they choose. Now, you can look at this picture and you can say, this could be an officiant. We don't know that this is a rabbi, but they are standing under a chuppah. And it may be a Jewish ceremony, or it may be an interfaith ceremony. But this is we see one ceremony, one religion. Now, here's a couple that this is a couple we married a couple years ago, and it was an interfaith couple. And they had one officiant that was Rabbi Gershon. And what we did with this ceremony is we combined some different traditions and some different rituals that they wanted to have through their ceremony. They had Jewish traditions, and this was Jewish and Christian. And so they had some Christian elements like candles and the unity candle. So that was an option. Now, sometimes we have two weddings. Now, this particular picture is a Hindu-Jewish wedding that we did at the Ritz-Carlton Half Moon Bay in California. But another option is actually a number of the couples that we worked with, they still had family in other countries like India or China, and they would have an American or a Jewish wedding here in the States, and then they would go to the family living in India or China or wherever, and have that traditional. These couples that had separate weddings tend to want to not mix the two traditions into one celebration. They have separate celebrations. Now, what you're looking at right now is we were asked to come in and help combine two ceremonies in one wedding. And so they had the Hindu ceremony first, and then in traditional Indian dress, and then they had they went and changed, the groom changed into a suit, and we had a portable chuppah, which is what they're bringing down now, and that went up under the mandap, which was used for the Hindu ceremony. And here we go. So this is the couple, and this is the Jewish ceremony. Now, another option. Well, so this was the combination in one day. This was combining it in two different ceremonies at the same place. We have also had two ceremonies. We've had an Indian Jewish wedding where earlier in the day they went to the Hindu temple and had their ceremony, and then came to the wedding reception area, and we did a traditional Jewish ceremony, and then they had their dinner and dancing. Now, another idea is to be able to have two officiants. So this is a wedding that we traveled to Guadalajara, and we had the priest and the rabbi, and this was a combination ceremony. And what I did was help to interweave both of the religions throughout the ceremony, so it was incorporated at different times, and it worked very well. And another time, this is a picture of the priest and rabbi in another co-officiated ceremony that we did, and they're working on the marriage license here. So there are also our ceremonies that we've done that were basically non-religious, non-traditional ceremonies that had one or two rituals: breaking the glass, drinking the wine, and the rabbi led the ceremony. And this was a Korean and Jewish ceremony, but the couple really didn't want a lot of tradition in their ceremony, and the parents came in traditional dress. So there are many different ways in which you can incorporate these different traditions. And I hope that this has given you some food for thought. So one of the other things that you want to keep in mind is that budget's going to come into the mix. So you're going to want to understand what kind of budget you have before you are going to make a decision on what type of ceremony and wedding. So these are different pre-planning kind of discussions that we help you go through ahead of time, because what happens if you decide, okay, in wedding planning, there's so much to do with just pulling it all together without having to think about, oh my goodness, how am I going to combine two different traditions? And my future mother-in-law, she wants this, and my mother wants that, and how am I going to do this and make it happen? And you're kind of like, oh, well, let me just plan the wedding and decide where I want it. And you start heading down the road, and it may happen that, as you get closer to the wedding, something happens like this. Last month, I got a call from a couple, and he's like, we're having a big wedding. We're having a civil ceremony. The groom is Jewish and the bride is Filipino American. And the groom was brought up conservative Jewish, and his mother had certain expectations, and he also wanted to have some of his religion or tradition more than religion, the culture part of it in his wedding. So I don't know all the background, but there was background family dynamics. And 8 weeks before the wedding is ready to happen, I get this call. I need you to find a rabbi, and I need you to find a synagogue where we can have 20 people come on a couple days after we get married and have a Jewish ceremony. So that was not in the plan in the beginning. I was able to do that for them, and I was able to do that pretty reasonably. But there's a lot of different things that you need to know to make that happen. And he was like, I don't know what to do. If you can find that for us, we'd be really grateful. And I was able to have that happen for them in less than 2 weeks. So I can help you if you forget those things in the beginning or you push them off. But it makes it a whole lot easier if you have that conversation in the beginning and get everybody on the same page, figure out what your budget is so that you can stay within it and you don't run into a large expense at the end, which would be even more stressful. So if you have questions, please put them in the comments, or you can go to the let me get this up. You can go to the Jewish Interfaith Wedding Network Facebook page, and you can message me directly, and I will get back to you shortly. I answer everyone's messages within 24 hours, usually within a couple of hours. And we can see what we can do to help you. So tomorrow, we'll be back tomorrow, and for another tips, and look forward to seeing you then. And let me just grab my, oops. Let me just grab my there we go. There we go. So this is the Jewish Fusion Wedding Talk Show. And we are here 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern, every weekday in June. So tune in for the next broadcast. See you later. Bye-bye.